Hello and welcome to this session, which is all about learning technologists tackling sectorial racism via recruitment and staff development. I'm Mara Deepwell and I'm the session chair for this session. And I'd like to introduce everybody who's listening now to our two speakers who are representing a whole group of effort, I believe. So a very warm welcome. First of all, to our colleague Teeroumanee Nadan. Welcome and great to have you with us. And also a very warm welcome to Tracy Madden. So Tracy, Teeroumanee, I will have a look at the comments in the chat now and hand over to you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Mara, and welcome everyone. I guess you can hear me loud and clear. One of the co-presenters couldn't make it today, but we are representing a whole team behind us. So who we are actually part of a subgroup of a community of practice, which is the Anti-Racism and Learning Technology Community of Practice. Our subgroup is actually recruitment and staff development. And Tracy, if you could move to the next slide, please. So as you can see, I've included on this slide our group email ID and also our sway page for the moment, which we are using to provide some key information about the community of practice. And I've also included some of the hashtags that we will be using as part of the community of practice. So as part of the team, there's, as Maren said, there's myself, Monica, who couldn't be here today, Tracy, and we've got two new members, Tanya and Maren herself. Next slide, please, Tracy. Sorry, could I have the next slide, please? Yeah, so as I said, as part of the community of practice, we are actually different groups. We've got the guidance for content developers, connected activities, which, by the way, the next presentation in this very parallel session will be from the sub-team of the research connected activities. And we're part of the recruitment and staff development. We've also got a reading group, which analyzes some reading materials and about racism, different kind of racism that could come from materials. I've put that in square brackets because we don't have outputs from that group yet. So moving on to today's presentation, I'm just going to start off by saying, for example, this week we have already, for those of you who don't know, probably have not read about it, we've seen about what the Labour's member, Harriet Harman actually mentioned to be the lottery of life within the resettlement plan of the 5,000 Afghans. As we all know, there has been issues in Afghanistan recently. I open up on this because I wanted to highlight how policies can make us sometimes act and behave more inhumanly in some scenarios without us even realizing what we are doing or even the aftermath effect. However, in no means relating this particular situation in Afghan to racism. This is just an eye-opening example. However, there is a very recent example about racism that I can tell you. Just last week, for example, if we look at the recruitment of NHS, where the NHS advertised several posts around inclusion and diversity officers and managers. If any of you have seen on Twitter, for example, and even on other social media, there has been lots of racist comments around that. And surprisingly enough, NHS is made up of a large proportion of staff who are BAME and foreigners, and yet this is what we've seen last week. And something perhaps more relatable to your day-to-day life is how positive discrimination is misused and without much support. We have all probably seen the onboarding of a woman or a BAME person, not so white person, I would say, to show diversity on paper. That is mostly a tick box exercise. Even in the previous, during the ethical framework today, several speakers have talked about that. And also we use this to look good on external reports. So if there are already, let's say, 9 male members on a board and we can just have 1 Black female, that would resolve the paperwork, isn't it? And then we would most of the time report this as our board is made up of 10 members, which is quite diverse. We have both female representation and we also have Black representation. And of course, we play around with the words and we embellish these in our reports simply to appeal to external bodies. The reason why I've opened up on a controversial matter, which is about the 5,000 cap with regards to the Afghan resettlement plan, is because racism is as big as an issue as this. It's still a much debated issue and yet a very poignant issue, which we are yet to even tackle properly and effectively in the UK. You will notice that I have also used we as in WE, because I'm also part of the issue, as much as I hate to say it. And why so? It's because simply I don't feel 100% safe to raise issues in certain circumstances. And the fact that am I scared of any form or shape of retaliation or victimization? Am I safe from these things? What I have heard, gone through myself in my work life or in my personal life, does not allow me to always ring the alarm bell. And I'm not the only BAME person to feel like this. I'll be coming back to this in the other slide later on. So I'm just going to dive in now into the recruitment and staff development subgroup work. And but before I proceed, I would like to say that the topic of racism is a very emotional issue, and it can bring certain anxieties right now among some of the people who are listening to us right now. You might be a BAME staff or not be a BAME staff, but it might bring out some anxieties. So if we don't have questions, or if people don't feel that they are able to, in this open space right now, to ask questions, we are available on Discord, on Twitter, by email. I've also provided an email ID that you can have a one-to-one conversation with any of one of us in this team. And obviously, why we are here, as I've put on this slide, is for change and for action. We want action. We need action. It's not just that we want it, we need it. And also for all of us to have a fair working space. We shouldn't be worried about saying something or be worried about witnessing something. This should not even be happening. Can I have the next slide, please, Tracy? So at the moment, how we've looked at it in this group is, in this team, is we're looking at recruitment, and also we're looking at staff development. We've already released 2 blog posts. I've included these on the slide, which I will share, and there's also takeaway material, which I will put on Discord for the whole alt community to have access to. Can I have the next slide, please, Tracy? Today's actually talk is more focused on the action learning sets, on the staff development, but I will very quickly touch upon recruitment, because I think it's very important to just kind of briefly mention some of the challenges in the sector that we have. So if you look at, for example, jobs.ac.uk, or brief search online, and if you look at the jobs in our sector, you will see that many of them are still around fixed-term contract, short-term contract, and which also allude to many other things, which are like, for example, people who are recruited in these are actually recruited from agencies and not HR department of an institution. And certain policies are not, and processes are not followed through. And there's also, do I have a sense of belonging, and all these things that might actually lead to certain EDI issues, not just racism here, but a lot of issues around EDI. And there's also on the next slide, which around demographics in the UK, and also geographical locations of applicants. And for example, if you compare the pool of human resources available, I mean, the staff available in London or even to East Midlands, obviously there's more diversity in London, I would say. Another challenge, which remains not just about EDI, but this is, and not just to our sector, but everywhere, is the unequal pay between white staff and staff of other ethnicities. And obviously the last point, which brings around gender empowerment. So how are female staff treated? Are they promoted on a fair basis? And do we understand our diverse pool of students and staff? This is obviously quite a big issue to tackle. And I'm now going to go to the second thing that we've been looking, which is the staff development. Can I have the next slide, please, Tracy? So staff development, two things that we've been looking is mentoring, and we're also looking at coaching. However, actually the committee of practice has been in existence since last year, November. And thanks to Matt, actually, Matt Lingard, who's one of our chair to the conference, and Monica. And through various, we've been having monthly meeting, and for all these meetings, we've actually been it's kind of been tinting to there is a need for action learning set. There is a need for small groups and for open and honest conversation. And that's why we are focusing on coaching at the moment rather than mentoring, which are both two things actually that we're considering in staff development. And the main aim of the action learning set is basically we want to create a safe space to have conversation and to problem solve challenges linked to creating a culture of belonging within the digital education, of course. And of course, in the action learning set, we are not just looking at empowering BAME staff, having just BAME staff coming with challenges there, but we're also looking at supporting white colleagues who want to bring change and to do something and to act on this issue, and also to bring support within the community. We're hoping that we will be a special interest group within ALT very soon. So this is one of our aim also within the activity of the action learning set. Can I have a, Chris, can you please change the slide to the next one? Okay. For some reason, I can't see your comment, but hopefully Tracy or Maren will tell me the comments. So on this slide, I haven't done any anonymous poll for a very good reason that I'll tell you very soon. But I would like to know, people who are here with us today attending this session, if you could just respond by yes or no to the first question on the slide, which is, have you ever witnessed an unfair or unethical treatment to a colleague or yourself being unfairly treated? Just respond by a yes or no. You don't need to give details. If you don't feel comfortable in this open forum, please don't put yourself into any difficult situation. And maybe Maren or somebody could, if you could tell me what are the responses to that.
Okay, I will monitor the chat. So please do post any yes or no answers to the question, have you ever witnessed an unfair or unethical treatment to yourself or a colleague in the chat? So I'm going to respond verbally. I'm going to say yes.
Okay. It's no pressure, by the way. I said before in this session is if you don't feel comfortable about saying this in an open forum, no problem. But so the reason why I've actually not made it anonymous is I wanted to actually pinpoint the fact that sometimes it can be difficult to say such things in an open forum. Because if you go to the next question, which is now, have you reported it to someone and was appropriate measure taken? This can be a bit trickier to talk about in an open forum. I don't know, Maren, if we've had any response to the first one.
No, we haven't had any responses.
Okay, and maybe to the second one, which is, have you reported it to someone and was appropriate measure taken?
So far, also no responses.
Okay, not a problem. And I was going to ask another question, which was to do with if you've answered yes in the chat, but I'm just going to skip this one. So I don't know, actually, I can't see how many people are on this session, but I can tell you that from the ELS session that we've run, and even within the community, it's very difficult for people to talk about it, and it's very difficult more to, it's worse actually to even talk about it in a bigger group. And also, we all know that today's session is being recorded, is live, and there's lots of people. There's probably our colleagues also watching, and there's our names that's going to appear. So I can understand the anxieties that might come up around this. And this is why actually, can I have the next slide, please, Tracy? This is why actually we are doing the action learning set. So because we've obviously had people saying, they are uncomfortable, a lot of people saying they're uncomfortable about raising issues, even within a community which is dealing with anti-racism. And then we have now created smaller groups of people talking openly and honestly about challenges they are facing. So when we were preparing the action learning sets, we've actually, all the facilitators, including Tracy here with me and Monica, who's absent, we've actually received a kind of a specialized sort of training. It's not to do with the how you facilitate an action learning training, but this one was very much geared towards also the topic of racism, and also how to deal with the challenges that might come with it, and also the problems that some people might talk about, because some of the problem, or as I've said, are very emotional, and some people might have been bullied, harassed, victimized, or there are other sort of things that are going on around it. And obviously, we've had some training around how do we deal with when we have a lot of people coming with these issues. How do we help them cope with this, because it's so emotional. And I've included on this slide here a short PDF, which is useful to those people who would think of joining the action learning set. It's just a kickoff material for people who think that they would want to participate in an action learning set. Obviously, if you are interested, if you do sign up, I've included the sign up links and everything later on in other slides. But if you do sign up to join for the action learning set, there are other measures that we include as well. And I've also added on this slide, which is about peer-to-peer support. Obviously, when we as facilitators, when we come across issues about bullying, racism, and all the issues that come with EDI challenges, we are also humans, and we can also be affected by these issues. And we have a peer-to-peer support. For example, if I do feel that I would like to talk to Tracy about something, or to Monica, or even to Matt, so people are available for us to discuss certain things about how to proceed on certain matters, especially because we know that our sector is quite small. Although there has been a pandemic and there has been a boom on online education, we're still a very small set of people. And we pretty much know each other, even though we've never met in person, but we know each other online, whether we are Twitter buddies or something like that, or even alt conference buddies. So in the action learning set, what we've designed the action learning set to be is it's a 2.5-hour action learning set, and there is one facilitator, and there is also another facilitator who's at hand to provide support. And one other thing that I need to highlight is there's a lot of anticipation. This is, as far as I'm aware, and as far as we are aware, is the first action learning set in our sector, and there's a lot of anticipation about this. Will it be successful? What will be the issues? We are such a small community. Do I have fears about future harassment if I move to another organization or something like that? So many of the members in the community have actually alluded to these concerns. Can I have the next slide, please, Tracy? Thank you. I've already mentioned about the 2.5 hours online session, and there's obviously follow-up sessions, and it will be the same group all the time, and it's very small. We've decided to have small groups because of the concerns obviously raised by members. Can I have the next slide, please, Tracy? So participants to the action learning sets, obviously they will sign up to the community of practice, and the community of practice, which I've added a sway link earlier. We have values, which members, we decided, I think last year itself or earlier this year, we decided on a set of values, which are, as you can see on the slide here. And we expect members of the action learning set to also abide by these values. But there's also one other thing which is very important, is we request these participants to sign up sign a confidentiality agreement, because we put ourselves at risk when we talk about things around bullying and harassment. And this is not just in our sector, but in all sectors, whether it is academia or industry. And what we don't want is somebody coming up and facing a challenge and opening up about it, and then having to face retaliation afterwards. So there is a confidentiality agreement that we expect people to abide by, even afterwards, after ending the session, 4 or 5 sessions of action learning set. The arrow here just basically sums up what I've just been telling you about how the action learning set proceeds. Sorry, Tracy, could I have the next slide, please? Yeah. So yeah, the arrow, as I said, just sums up what I've just been saying in the previous slide. And the next one as well, Tracy. Thank you. I've put a bit of what we've learned so far. I have been alluding to a lot of these things already, is around, let's say we have a member who's concerned about opening up honestly in a group because of fear of retaliation, if ever there is a staff from their own institution in the community, or if ever they have somebody in the action learning set and then they move university and then that staff is there, and then how will that person react? So a lot of these concerns have come up, and obviously there is the issue around building trust. This is generic. This is in every sector, which is I need to trust somebody that before I open up about challenges which are very emotional to me. But personally, I've found out that the fact that, for example, all our monthly meetings, none of them are recorded. And we specifically mention this at the beginning. And we also now have started to specifically mention the values of the community before the meeting, at the beginning of the meeting, so that people can have trust that whatever they say in the meeting and also what they say to facilitators will not then come and bite them. One of the things that we've learned so far is, obviously, as I said earlier, is we are hoping to become a special interest group very soon, we hope, within ALT. That's because it's a much needed activity. It's a much needed project for ALT as well. Personally, it would have been great to have seen a top-down initiative on here, but it is what it is at the moment. And what we would hope to see is that we get recognized as an SIG and that we are able to continue our projects, and all these are recognized officially under ALT, so that we can actually have bigger impact in the sector. And one last, it's actually not the very last one, but it's just one in a non-exhaustive list, which is about lurkers and active members. So since we've created the community since last year, November last year, it was the official meeting. We've also noticed that there are some people who join meeting but don't participate in activities. And this is something we are trying to avoid, and this is why we focus very much. I had on one of my slides about the research connected, which I'm also part of the group and will be presenting just after this presentation, because we want action. And there's no point to just see racism and do nothing about it, or say something about it to somebody else, but without actually doing the proper action. We need the action to change things. And this is one of the things that obviously we've been learning also so far as facilitators ourselves. Can I have the next slide, please, Tracy? Thank you. So what's next for us is to continue on the action learning sessions, action learning set sessions, and to continue to capture feedback and work on that, so that, because we want the action learning sets to be a safe space where not only that there's trust, but also people can feel as much as possible confident to open up. Obviously, there might be certain things that people might not open up about because that's really, really deep-rooted issues. It's not about forcing people to open up also, but it's about giving them the space and making them feel as much as possible confident and safe. And also to gather So the next step would be obviously to gather information. As I've said earlier, one of the things that we're doing, and I know Maren is very interested on that, is about recruitment. It's about how do we have a fair recruitment process. Recruitment process is basically not just an interview. It's a whole process from I have a task and I have no one to do it and I need one more person to do it. It's from this very thought that actually the process of recruitment starts. And recruitment doesn't stop with I've hired the person has joined and has been paid their first month or second month salary. That's not just it. So we are hoping to be able to put something together. We are always seeking more people to join us because it's quite a big topic. And as I've said, very emotional and very deep-rooted. More hands, the better. Can I have the next slide, please, Tracy? Yeah, thank you, Tracy. I've put together a takeaway information, which is a sign up to the committee of practice, and also some takeaway notes, which is published in academia. .edu at the moment, and I think Maren is just coming to tell me that I've run out of time.
We're just out of time, and we had a few people joining in the chat in questions as well, and I wanted to just say thank you for everybody who's joined into the conversation and highlighted how hard it is to have this conversation. So Teeroumanee, Tracy, any final points and takeaways from you?
Please come and join us.
Well, thank you, everybody, and thank you to our presenters for a really important session and a really important conversation. We hope that you will join this group and sign up to the action group and find takeaway notes from today. So thank you for those of you who were brave enough to share comments in the chat. It's been fantastic, and please put your hands together and give two of our presenters a big round of applause. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us here for this conversation today.